London wakes up in a flash. It's a city that's always buzzing, always on the move. On any given morning, the streets are alive with energy before the sun even peeks over the skyline. And that particular morning, something special was about to unfold. A street musician was gearing up to play some tunes. But guess what? He wasn't flying solo. A little ginger cat was about to waltz in and steal the show. Meet James Bowen, a guy just trying to find his way in the hustle and bustle. Every day, he'd pick a good spot, crack open his guitar case, and strum for the crowd of people rushing by. It felt like a daily grind just to scrape by. He was used to blending into the background, just another sound in the city's chaotic symphony. But everything was about to change, thanks to a furry friend he recently met. He spent what little cash he had on a vet visit, nursed the cat back to health, and named him Bob. He thought about setting Bob free once he was better, hoping the cat had a home to go back to. But Bob had other plans. He started following James everywhere. This wasn't just a stray he was helping. This was a buddy. One morning, as James was heading out to busk, Bob followed him right out the door and onto the bus. James tried to stop him, saying, "No, Bob, you can't come with me. It's not safe. You have to stay here." But Bob wasn't having it. He was determined. After a few failed attempts to leave him behind, James finally gave in. And in that moment of surrender, something magical happened. As James walked toward his usual spot, Bob leaped with surprising grace from the pavement right onto his shoulder. And there he sat, perfectly calm, perfectly balanced, gazing out at the world like he owned it. The reaction was instant. People who usually rushed by without a second thought suddenly stopped. Their hurried faces softened into smiles. They pointed, they laughed, and phones started flashing. For the first time, a real crowd gathered around James. But he knew, with a mix of surprise and amusement, that they weren't there for him. They were there for Bob, the little ginger cat with golden eyes, perched regally on his human shoulder, was the real star. From that day on, Bob became a permanent part of the act. He was a natural performer. Sometimes he'd sit on James's shoulder, a silent, furry co-pilot. Other times, he'd curl up inside the open guitar case, nestled among the coins and bills, looking like a dragon guarding his treasure. He even had a collection of scarves, lovingly knitted for him by fans, and his signature red and orange one made him instantly recognizable. He was a beacon of warmth and curiosity in the often impersonal rush of London. The effect was nothing short of amazing. James's guitar case, which used to barely collect enough for a meal, started filling up. People weren't just tossing in spare change. They were giving him notes. Tourists made a point to come back day after day, not just for the music, but to see the famous cat. They brought him treats, toys, and even more scarves. "Is that the cat?" they'd ask, excitement bubbling in their voices. "Is that Bob?" James and Bob became a local landmark, a must-see attraction. Videos of them went viral. They were on the news. They were famous. But the biggest change wasn't just in James's wallet. It was in his heart. For years, he had felt invisible. Now, people noticed him. They talked to him. They wanted to know his story and Bob's story. He was no longer just a struggling musician. He was the guy with the cat. He was someone. And with that came a new sense of responsibility. He had someone depending on him, someone who trusted him completely. This little cat gave him a reason to get up in the morning. He had to feed Bob. He had to make sure Bob was safe. This new structure, this simple discipline, started to chip away at the chaos that had ruled his life for so long. He began taking better care of himself because he had to take care of Bob. The fog of his past struggles began to lift. He drank less. He smiled more. He even reconnected with his family. Bob wasn't just a pet. He was a purpose. He was hope wrapped in ginger fur. James was healing, one song, one day at a time, with his best friend by his side. But the streets of London can be unpredictable. And life, even when it seems to be turning around, is never without its challenges. One night, James came home, expecting Bob to be there, waiting for him as he always was. But the flat was empty. Bob was gone. James called his name, his voice echoing in the quiet apartment. "Bob, Bob, where are you?" He checked all the usual spots under the bed, in the closet. Nothing. Panic began to set in, a cold, familiar dread creeping back into his chest. He rushed back out, frantically searching the dark, rain-slicked streets. He walked for hours, calling Bob's name until his voice was raw. He showed his picture to strangers, asking, "Have you seen this cat? He's Ginger." He answers to Bob. Each passing hour without a sign felt like an eternity. The old fears, the loneliness, the feeling of being lost, it all came rushing back. Without Bob, the city felt vast and empty again. The thought of losing the one good thing that had happened to him was unbearable. He was terrified that his luck had finally run out. He searched all through the night, his hope dwindling with each step. As the first light of dawn broke over the city, a defeated and exhausted James made his way back to his building, his heart heavy with grief. He had to face the possibility that Bob was gone for good. But as he rounded the corner, he saw a small, familiar ginger shape sitting patiently on the steps outside the front door. It was Bob. He was just sitting there, waiting, as if he'd just popped out for a stroll, and was wondering what all the fuss was about. The relief that washed over James was overwhelming. He ran to him, scooped him up, and hugged him tighter than he had ever hugged anything in his life. In that moment, holding his friend and feeling his soft purr against his chest, everything became clear. He wasn't just some guy who found a cat. They were a team, a family. He wasn't alone anymore, and he knew with absolute certainty that he would never be alone again. Their journey together was far from over. In fact, it was just the beginning. This small cat on a busker's shoulder had already captured the heart of London. But soon, the entire world was about to meet Bob. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of A K Storytales. If their story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell, because you won't want to miss what happens next. Catch you in the next video.